Sunday afternoon, the living room was quiet until her voice sharp like a knife. "Don't ever take my child to church again." I froze. The plate in my hand trembled. My daughter-in-law was standing across the table. Her eyes burned, her jaw tight with anger. "This is America," she said. "We don't force beliefs here." Her words cut deeper than she could imagine. I wasn't forcing anything. I wasn't preaching. I had only taken my grandson to Sunday service. We sang hymns. He laughed with other children. He held my hand when we prayed. It was simple, beautiful. But now it had turned into a crime. My son sat silent. His fork barely moved. He looked at the tablecloth, not at me. My chest ached. My throat closed. All I wanted was to pass on faith. Not religion as a cage, but faith as comfort. The same faith that carried me through hard years. Through raising him alone. Through nights when bills piled up and hope felt thin. Faith gave me strength when the world didn't. And now my own family called it an imposition. "Mom," my son whispered, "finally, please don't make this harder." Harder? I had lived harder. I had walked miles in the cold because the car broke down. I had worked 2 jobs so he could eat. I had kept the lights on by skipping meals myself. And through it all, faith was my anchor. But none of that mattered now. Not to her. She only saw control. Not love. She saw pressure. Not history. I sat back feeling smaller than ever. At 68, I never thought I'd be accused of forcing beliefs in my own home. If you've ever felt misunderstood in your own family, if you've ever given your life only to be told you're wrong, then stay with me, because my story is not over. And maybe you'll see a piece of yourself here. Don't scroll away. Walk with me to the end. I promise you won't forget this story. And if it touches you, subscribe, so we can walk together through the stories yet to come. My name is Eleanor. I am 68 years old. I live in Ohio, a quiet suburb outside Columbus. Our street is lined with maple trees. In fall, the leaves burn red. I bought this house 30 years ago, back when my son was little. Back then, I was alone. His father passed when Marcus was 12. I raised him on my own. Every paycheck, every mile driven me. We built memories here. Backyard barbecues, 4th of July fireworks. Snow days when I shoveled the driveway. Christmas mornings with stockings by the fire. This house holds my life. Every scar on the floor tells a story. Now Marcus lives just 10 miles away with his wife, Fallon. She is strong-willed, sharp-tongued, sharp mind. They've been married 8 years. They gave me 2 grandkids. Ethan is 8. Lily just turned 5. They light up my world. Ethan's laugh echoes down my hallway. He likes baseball. I take him to Little League practice. Lily loves to sing. She twirls in my kitchen like a dancer. When they visit, the house feels alive. I bake cookies, pour milk in tall glasses. Sometimes I drive them to school. Sometimes we stop for ice cream. Last Sunday, I took Ethan to church. Just a simple drive 3 miles away. The same church where Marcus grew up. Where he learned his first Christmas carol. Where I found strength on the hardest nights of my life. Inside, Ethan's eyes lit up. He sang louder than any kid there. But to Fallon, it wasn't tradition. To her, it was intrusion. She thinks I'm old-fashioned. Too tied to the past. Maybe I am. But isn't family about roots? I've given them space. I've respected their choices. But I hoped just a piece of me could live on. Not in money. not in things, but in faith in values. That's why her words at dinner hit so hard. I wasn't just being scolded, I was being erased. As if my life, my sacrifices meant nothing. I looked at Marcus that night, my only child. The boy who once clutched my hand walking to the school bus in winter snow. The boy who once whispered, "Mom, don't worry, I'll take care of you." Now he stared at his plate, silent. And Fallon's voice filled the room, sharp, unyielding. I sat there wondering if I even belonged. That is who I am. That is where I come from. Eleanor. Mother. Grandmother. Widow. Ohio is my home. But family. Family is my heartbeat. Even when it breaks me. When Fallon's words echoed in my ears, memories came rushing back. I saw myself, 35 years old, standing in a diner kitchen apron stained with grease. I worked double shifts, sometimes 16 hours straight, for $5 an hour plus tips if customers were kind. At night, I came home past midnight. Marcus would be asleep, books scattered on the couch. I'd cover him with a blanket, kiss his forehead. Then I'd sit at the table balancing the bills. Electric bill overdue. Gas tank empty. Rent due in 3 days. My paycheck already spent. I stretched every dollar. A pound of ground beef into 3 meals. Mac and cheese from a box. Cans of soup stacked in the pantry. Marcus never complained. Not once. He smiled when I packed lunch. Peanut butter and jelly. An apple wrapped in paper towel. That was our life. Simple, tight, but full of love. On Sundays, I put on my best dress. We walked 3 blocks to church, rain or shine. Sometimes the Ohio wind cut sharp. Snow piled 3 inches deep. But we walked, hand in hand. Inside, the pew's warmth covered us. Music lifted our hearts. Neighbors smiled past hugs. Marcus would sing off key, but I didn't care. That faith carried me. Through empty fridges. Through hospital nights when fever scared me half to death. Through broken cars that stranded us miles from home. I remember one winter night. Car broke down on I-70. Wind howled across the highway. Marcus shivered in the back seat. I wrapped him in my coat. Prayed for help. A trucker pulled over. Gave us a ride 10 miles to town. I'll never forget his kindness. I'll never forget the fear. But faith told me we'll be all right. And we were. Every time. I sacrificed vacations, fancy clothes, restaurants. Instead, I bought school shoes. Paid for little league fees. I saved quarters in a jar. Until we could buy a used bike. I painted Marcus's room myself. Sky blue walls, white trim. He grew up in that room. Dreaming big. I still remember his first day of college. We drove 200 miles. My old Chevy barely made it. I unloaded boxes, carried them up 3 flights. My back ached, but my heart soared. Because we made it. Together. I thought all those sacrifices meant something. That when I grew old, he would remember. That my family would honor what it took to survive. But here I am decades later. Told that my faith, the very thing that saved us, is nothing but pressure. An imposition. It hurts more than words can say. Because behind every hymn, every prayer I whispered, was love. Pure love. Love that worked 2 jobs. Love that skipped meals. Love that walked miles in snow. Love that carried him forward. If only they could see what I see. Faith was never chains. Faith was wings. And I pray one day they'll understand. The night after dinner, her words still echoed. But conflict doesn't fade. It grows. The very next morning, Fallon showed up. She knocked hard 3 times on my door. I opened slowly. Her arms crossed tight. "Eleanor," she said, "we need to talk." I stepped aside. She walked in fast. No hello. No smile. She went straight to the living room, sat on the couch, back stiff. I sat across from her, hands folded in my lap. "I told you last night," she started firm. "You can't take Ethan to church anymore." Her tone was final, like a judge passing sentence. I swallowed, my throat dry. "Fallon," I said gently, "I only wanted him to feel joy." Her eyes narrowed. "That's not joy. That's pressure. That's indoctrination." The word stung, like a slap. "I never forced him," I whispered. "He wanted to go." She leaned forward, voice sharp. "He's 8. He doesn't know better." I bit my lip. Her words twisted like knives. "I raised Marcus there," I said. "He grew up fine." Fallon shook her head. "That was your choice. This is ours. We want freedom." I looked at the carpet. The same carpet where Ethan played. Toy cars, little shoes, laughter ringing in my ears. Was that pressure? Was that harm? Before I could answer, Marcus walked in. He had parked outside. Now he stood in the doorway. "Mom," he said softly, "let's keep peace, please. Peace is silence, peace. Or is it surrender?" "Marcus," I said, "my faith carried you." He shifted uneasily, hands in his pockets. "I know, Mom. But times are different." Different. The word burned. Bills were still bills. Cold was still cold. Children still need love, hope, guidance. Nothing about that is different. But he looked away. Let Fallon's voice lead. From now on, she said, no church, no prayers, no influence. She stood up, adjusting her jacket, like she had signed a contract and I had lost. Marcus followed her. Not one word of defense. The door shut behind them. Silence swallowed the house. I sat in the quiet, my chest heavy. Even the clock on the wall seemed louder. Every tick a reminder of distance. I whispered to myself, is love not enough? The question hung in the air unanswered. And that was how conflict truly began. Not with fists, not with fire, but with silence and closed doors. 2 days passed, but my heart couldn't rest. I replayed Fallon's words, her anger, her judgment. I replayed Marcus's silence. That silence cut deepest. I told myself, maybe let it go. But every time I looked at Ethan's baseball glove or Lily's crayon drawings on my fridge, I felt the weight of being erased. So I called Marcus. Come over, I said. He hesitated, but he came. They both did. Marcus and Fallon. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table I bought for $50 at a yard sale years ago. The same table where I fed Marcus spaghetti after long school days, where we did homework together. Now that table felt like a witness stand. I took a breath, looked at both of them. I need to speak, I said, my voice steady. Fallon crossed her arms. Marcus shifted in his seat. I have stayed quiet for too long. I looked straight at Marcus. My son, I raised you with faith. Not to control you, but to keep you standing when life tried to break us. Marcus lowered his eyes, didn't answer. Fallon leaned forward, her tone sharp. Eleanor, with respect, that was your choice. This is our family now. We choose differently. Her words like steel, cold, unbending. I felt the sting, but I didn't stop. Fallon, I said, I respect your home. I never told you how to live, what to do. But this house, this family, has roots. Deep roots. I pressed my palm against the worn table. This table, these walls. Every mile I drove, every dollar I scraped. It was all for Marcus. And now for Ethan and Lily. Fallon's eyes rolled. Marcus rubbed his forehead. But I pushed on. My heart burned. I am not asking to run your home. I am asking for respect. Respect for the years I carried this family. Respect for the faith that kept us alive. When you say it's nothing, when you forbid it, it feels like you erase me. Erase everything. The room went quiet. My chest rose heavy. Finally, Marcus spoke. His voice low. Mom, I don't want fights. Then don't be silent, I said. Silence is a wound. He looked at Fallon, then back at me, caught in the middle. Pulled both ways. Fallon's voice snapped. We just want freedom. And I want dignity, I replied. Is that too much? My words hung in the air. Tears pressed at my eyes. But I didn't look away. Not this time. I had been quiet for 68 years. Today, I found my voice. The room was still, but tension crackled like thunder. I had spoken my truth. Now it was their turn. Fallon leaned back, eyes hard as glass. Dignity, she repeated. You think this is about you. Her voice rose sharp as broken glass. This is about our kids. Not your past. Not your church. Not your memories. I flinched. Her words hit deep. They are my children, she said. Mine and Marcus's. Not yours. Not anymore. Silence roared in my ears. I gripped the table edge. Every vein in my hand stood out like wires. I whispered, Ethan and Lily are my blood. She shot back, they're not your responsibility. Marcus tried to step in. Fallon, please. But she cut him off. No, Marcus. Enough? Your mom is crossing the line. She needs to hear it. Her finger pointed at me. Firm. Unshaking. You had your turn raising a child. Now step aside. This is our family, not yours to guide. Her words split me open. Like 30 years erased. Like every sacrifice forgotten. I felt my chest tighten. My breath came shallow. All the nights I stayed hungry. All the miles I drove in snow. All the dollars I stretched till my hands ached. All of it dismissed in one breath. Marcus sat there, head in his hands. He didn't defend me. Not one word. The silence betrayed me deeper than knives. Tears blurred my sight, but anger held me upright. I stood slowly. Chair scraped against the floor. You speak of family, I said, voice trembling but strong. Do you know what family costs? Do you know the price? Fallon crossed her arms. Brows arched. I gave my youth for family. My health, my dreams. I buried my husband before Marcus turned 13. I worked 2 jobs. 16 hours a day. So my boy could eat. So he could learn. I walked 3 miles in winter. Snow biting my skin. So he could make it to school. So he had a chance. And now you tell me I have no voice. No place, no right. My voice cracked. But I didn't stop. Family is not ownership. It is sacrifice. And you will not erase me. Not in this house. Not while I breathe. The words hung heavy. Marcus finally looked up, his eyes wet, but lips sealed. Fallon's face hardened. She grabbed her purse. "Come on, Marcus," she snapped. "We're leaving." Marcus rose slowly. Eyes met mine. For 1 second, I saw my little boy. The boy who once said, "I'll always stand by you." But that boy was gone. Now a man torn in half. They walked to the door. Fallon's heels struck sharp. The door slammed shut. Walls shook. And I stood there alone, heart-pounding breath ragged. The climax of years now breaking open. Not from strangers, but from my own blood. The slam of the door still echoed in my chest. I leaned against the table, hands shaking. The house felt hollow, like every sound had fled. I wiped my eyes, whispered a prayer. That's when I heard it. A small voice. Grandma soft. Gentle. I turned. Ethan stood in the hallway, his little sneakers untied. Baseball cap crooked on his head. I froze. I thought they'd taken him, but Marcus must have dropped him off earlier that day. He looked at me, eyes wide innocent. "Why are you crying, Grandma?" he asked. My throat tightened. I forced a smile. "Oh, sweetheart," I whispered. "Sometimes grown-ups forget kindness." He walked closer, laid his hand on mine. "I like going with you," he said. "To church. I get to sing. I get cookies after. And when we pray, I feel safe." Tears broke free again. I pulled him close. He smelled of crayons and grass. Warm, alive, pure. He looked up at me serious for his age. "Grandma, you're my best friend." The words shattered me and healed me all at once. Out of the mouths of children, truth flows like rivers. He didn't see control. He saw love. He didn't feel pressure. He felt safety. At that moment, the weight lifted. The house wasn't empty. It was filled with his voice. We sat on the couch together. He leaned against my arm. I told him stories. How his dad used to play here. How Marcus once broke a lamp, chasing a baseball inside. Ethan laughed so hard he nearly fell over. That laugh like sunlight through storm clouds. Later that evening, Fallon returned. Her face tight, her steps quick. But when she saw Ethan clutching my hand, her words froze. She looked confused. "Mom said you cried," Ethan told her. Grandma was sad. Fallon blinked. Her jaw loosened. "Why?" she asked softly. For once, her tone unsure. "Because Ethan said she thinks you don't love her." Silence fell heavy. Fallon glanced at me. For the first time, her eyes softened. I didn't speak. I let the truth hang. Ethan hugged my arm tighter. "I love Grandma," he declared. Then, almost shy, he added, "Grandma makes me feel safe." Fallon's lips parted, but no words came. Marcus stepped in behind her, his face pale, shaken. He looked at his son, then at me, and something cracked in his eyes, like a dam breaking. In that silence, the third voice spoke louder than any argument, than any sermon. A child's love, pure, unfiltered, undeniable. And for the first time in days, I breathed. The room grew quiet. Ethan's words still hanging. Fallon stood frozen. Marcus stared at the floor. I held Ethan close, my heart beating steady again. But I knew this moment needed more. Something beyond my voice. Something undeniable. I rose slowly, walked to the hallway closet. From the top shelf, I pulled down a small box. Old cedar wood, worn corners. Inside it, my life in fragments. Wedding ring wrapped in cloth. Polaroids from the 70s. And one envelope, yellowed with years. I carried it back, set it gently on the table. Marcus looked up. "What's that?" I touched the envelope, hands trembling. "It's from your father," I said, "written before he passed." Fallon's eyes narrowed. Skeptical, I slid the letter out, unfolded the creased paper, the handwriting strong but fading with time. I began to read aloud, my voice low, uneven. "Eleanor, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. It means you're alone now." Marcus's breath caught. His eyes widened. The words carried us back 35 years. "You will be strong," the letter said. "You always are. But promise me something. Promise me you'll keep faith alive. Not as a rule book. Not as chains. But as hope. As shelter when storms come. Promise me our boy will know where his strength comes from." My voice cracked. Tears blurred the page. "Even if I'm gone, let him feel God near, so he never feels truly alone." I lowered the paper. Silence filled the kitchen. Marcus's hands covered his mouth. Fallon's arms dropped to her sides. The letter trembled in my hands, but its weight held steady. This, I whispered, was his wish. Not mine. Not control. Just a father's voice from beyond years. Ethan reached out, touched the paper. "Daddy's daddy wrote that he asked softly." I nodded. "Yes, sweetheart." Fallon swallowed hard, her eyes wet. She looked at Marcus. No words, just silence. Marcus's shoulders shook. Finally, tears fell. He reached across the table, covered my hand with his. "Mom," he whispered, "I never knew." I squeezed his hand. "You were too young." The letter lay between us, fragile yet mighty. Fallon sat down slowly. For once, no argument, only the truth of ink, the voice of the past. A twist of fate, my husband speaking still. And in that moment, the battle shifted. Not by force, not by anger, but by memory, by love that refused to die. The letter rested on the table, its paper fragile yet unshaken. No one spoke for a long time. Only the clock ticked. Marcus wiped his face. His voice cracked. "Mom, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I reached for his hand, held it tight. "You were 12, Marcus. Too young to carry that weight." His shoulders slumped. A boy again. Fallon sat back in her chair, her eyes red quiet. She looked at Ethan, then at me. For once, no wall between us. Just silence softening the air. "I didn't mean," she began, then stopped. Her lips trembled. She looked down. I breathed deep, the first easy breath in days. Because this wasn't about winning. It never was. It was about being seen, being remembered. I folded the letter, slipped it back in the envelope. "This isn't a fight," I said. "It's a reminder." Marcus nodded. Fallon's gaze softened. Ethan leaned against me, his small head warm on my arm. The weight in my chest lifted. Peace slow but steady. Outside dusk painted the sky. Shades of orange and purple. The maple trees swayed. Leaves whispered in the wind. I thought of my husband, of his voice in the letter. He had wanted strength. He had wanted faith alive. And in this moment I felt him near. Not in anger, not in argument, but in the quiet, in the love that lingered. Marcus squeezed my hand again. I'm sorry, Mom, Fallon finally whispered. I was harsh. I smiled faintly. We all protect what we love. No grudges. No bitterness. Only the fragile truce that comes with honesty. The kitchen felt warmer, not from the heater, but from hearts opening just a little. I poured us tea, set the cups on the table. Steam curled upward, carrying away the heaviness. Ethan giggled suddenly. Grandma makes the best cookies. We all laughed softly, even Fallon. And that laugh, that small laugh, it was enough. Enough to remind me. I didn't need victory. I didn't need control. I only needed this fragile peace. Because peace once found is stronger than war. And for the first time in years, I felt whole again. Weeks passed after that night. The house felt lighter. Marcus came by often, sometimes with Ethan and Lily, sometimes alone just to sit with me. He fixed the squeaky door, mowed my lawn, things he hadn't done in years, not because he didn't care, but because he had forgotten. Now he remembered. Fallon kept her distance, her pride, her walls. But something shifted in her. She spoke softer. She no longer raised her voice. No more sharp commands. One Sunday, she even came inside. She didn't stay long. But she came. Ethan ran to her, pulled her hand. Mom, sit with us, he said. We're baking cookies. She hesitated. Then she sat. And for the first time, she smiled at me. Not a big smile, but enough. The truth had done its work. The letter, the child's voice. My silence turned into strength. Fallon could not erase me. Not anymore. Because family is stronger than pride. And the community saw too. At school events, church gatherings, neighbors whispered. Some asked questions. Fallon had to face it. Her anger had consequences. Respect was expected. Respect was earned. She could no longer dismiss me as old, outdated. The truth had spoken louder, and she had to listen. That was her reckoning. Not punishment from me, but the quiet judgment of truth itself. And me, I found peace. I walked each morning, half a mile around the block. I tended my garden. Tomatoes, beans, roses. I baked pies on weekends. Peach in summer, pumpkin in fall. Ethan helped stir batter. Lily sprinkled sugar on top. The house filled with laughter. The kind I prayed for. Sometimes Marcus read aloud. Old letters, family stories. We remembered together. We healed together. And at night, when the house was quiet, I sat by the window, looked at the stars. I whispered thanks to my husband for his words that lived on, for his faith that carried me. I wasn't erased. I wasn't forgotten. I was seen. I was loved. And that is all I ever wanted. So now I leave you who listen to my story with a question that matters. If your mother or your grandmother sat across from you, eyes filled with tears, would you silence her or would you listen? Would you dismiss her years, her sacrifices? Or would you honor them, carry them forward? Because one day we all grow old. And respect is the only gift that never loses value, never fades with time. So think carefully. Answer with your heart. And if this story touched even a corner of you, don't leave just yet. Stay with me, because there are more stories, more truths, stories of love, stories of pain, stories that remind us We are not alone. Subscribe so we can meet again, so we can walk together through the next story. Until then, remember, family is not ownership, it is sacrifice. And love, faith, these are the two legacies, the true inheritance of every family